But it's funny because the Stone Brothers thing popped its head up a bit later on. Never eventuated, but was contract on the table.
You can never get enough, Steve Richards. He's seriously one of the best people I've ever dealt with in Aussie motorsport, and accordingly, we have part 3 of our chat with Richo right here on the V8 Sleuth Podcast, powered by Parramatta Toyota, Sydney's Toyota dealer with a passion for performance and motorsport. This ep is very much about Richo's V8 Supercar era, post the UK times, from really 1999 onwards, and there is a lot to chew into. We talk his return to join Gibson Motorsport, how that ended and how he joined and then left Glenn Seton's team, his return to Holden and the funny way that it was announced to the other Commodore drivers, let's just say Richo was dressed up, the FPR years, both full-time and enduro, and how he ended up crossing the fence after winning Bathurst for FPR to then lining up with Triple Eight. We recount those Bathurst 1000 wins as a co-driver with Mark Winterbottom and the 2 with Craig Lowndes, and something really juicy. He dives deep into the Stone Brothers deal that was oh so close to happening, and a HRT deal that never quite came together. Let's get back into it. It's Steve Richards on the V8 Sleuth Podcast, powered by Parramatta Toyota.
When we got back to the UK after all that, I went.
There's
again,
nothing more you could do.
At
You're
some
surely
point,
on a shot.
at some point, I went to see Alec, and Alec, he sort of said, "Look, the problem is, right? We're in the second year of a 3-year contract. We've finished second in the championship. To guarantee anything else happening with Nissan spending any money, we have to win it next year." And he said, we just can't take the risk to have you in the car and have that be a reason you maybe don't. Anthony leaving, he turned out to be our strong driver, and so basically I'd known at that point then. I thought, okay, well that I didn't feel I could have done anything more to prove myself that I was capable of being a full-time driver in that team. And if the decision, if they couldn't take a risk because of that, then that it wasn't going to happen for me.
Mm.
Also to say that a month later I went back and won the 1,000, that then I sort of thought, hey, I mean, this, even in this 12 months, this whole Supercars thing has it's booming.
It's really starting to hammer.
It's going to be, so yeah. So anyway, but I got, awesome. What an experience. I think I learnt more about myself as a person, being able to back decisions that I'd made during that year. We got married the weekend after winning the biggest race.
You've had a 1998 and a half here.
1998 was pretty good.
Wow.
There was a lot of highlights. And yeah, I just thought, well, again, the V8 Bathurst win all of a sudden. So after V8 Bathurst, we got married. The week after, Nissan were testing at Kyalami in South Africa. I was still obviously a Nissan contracted person. I'd gone to Kyalami and the phone had started ringing, and it was Ross, and it was Fred, and there was some options on the table. Ross wasn't sure what Bridie was going to do. Bridie was starting to think of the overseas American stuff, yep. And they really weren't sure, so they wanted to have some options. If Jace had stayed, he was going to drive for them. There was no problem there. But if Jace was going to try and, if he got the money together to do it, he was going to leave. So there were a couple of options there. And literally while I was at Kyalami for the test, and I wasn't testing, I was over there just supporting Mel. But interestingly enough, that was the first time that that
ALO and Ludo,
and that's when I met Ludo. And Ludo doesn't remember that. I've spoken to him about that in the past. He doesn't remember me being there, but that was a very, very French Ludo Lacroix, chain smoking engineer, but he had his drive, and the two working together, they were just to watch. It was just like unbelievable.
So did you have to ask to be let out of the second year of the Nissan deal?
Yeah, I did.
They did.
Yeah,
They went,
I basically decided that was a week-long test. I decided at the end of that week that so the decision between, where I thought I had an opportunity, there was a month in between the Super Tourer Bathurst and the V8 Bathurst. I'd gone back to the UK after the Super Touring Bathurst. It was in that period there that I'd found out that really I couldn't be considered in the frame for the drive, and we got married, came back. The Kyle Army thing I'd already known, and I was already making a decision. I just sort of thought that regardless of what happened next year, if I was a test driver in the UK, it's another year. Nissan may not even continue with the program.
You might be out at the end of the year anyway.
I might be out at the end of the year anyway, and here I am with two opportunities to race V8 Supercars. Just seemed like the right decision to me. Yeah.
Out of all the things we've talked here in that period of 98, the other thing that emerges out of all this is that you gave Garth Tander his career, basically. Basically, the big fella doesn't have the career he's had if you don't go to England.
Oh, I'm sure he would have ended up.
He would have got in somewhere somehow, but it wouldn't have worked out exactly the same as it kind of worked out.
Yeah, we laugh about that. Garth's mentioned that a few times.
It worked out. Yeah. So why did you pick Gibsons? Well, I mean, obviously there's a little history there, but they had been rebuilding after all the Siggy money went. Wins, Gary Dumbrell's on the scene. Murph's ended up out of HRT, and so you guys sort of come together there. But why there? Obviously, Stones was a closed door because Bridie's not going.
Yes.
Best option on the table.
Best option. I'd really decided that if I couldn't make it with Nissan and all the opportunities that I had, it was probably unlikely that I was going to find a seat there. The series at the end of '98, I think they'd lost two manufacturers. It might have been.
I'm trying to think. Renault, maybe. Oh no, I think Renault stayed for one more year. But
there were two manufacturers that left. Might have been Peugeot. Might have been
Peugeot left at the end of '98 because Radicic came back to Australia.
And
drove at DJR.
And there was another one.
Honda stayed. Ford stayed. Vauxhall stayed.
BMW.
No, BMW had been gone by then.
Yep.
But you're right.
There were two manufacturers, and it was looking a bit shaky.
Yeah, it was just starting.
People were sort of the positivity around the championship wasn't quite what it was, and I just thought, here I am with a great opportunity to go back and have a career doing that, and that's just the way it worked out. Gibson Motorsport really, aside from Stone Brothers, was the only option. I was familiar with it. I knew how Fred operated. I didn't really know Gary Dumbrell. I had no idea, but the fact that Murph was going there, he was sort of a bit of a, what would you call it? At that point of his career, as a bit of a journeyman. He was just trying to find a way back into the sport a little bit from the HRT thing. But it's funny because the Stone Brothers thing popped its head up a bit later on. Never eventuated, but was contract on the table.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Later on down the line?
Later on down the line.
How far down the line are we talking?
We're talking end of 05.
Right. Oh, that's far down the line.
Yeah, and that's another story. So do you want to jump there?
Yeah, let's. Hey, we've jumped. Why not keep jumping?
So after the '98 Bathurst thing, I felt like, and I'm sure Ross and Jimmy did, like we had a really good, because I'm a technical guy. I love the hands-on, getting amongst it.
You're not a turn up with helmet race.
Yeah, I remember at the Sandown 500, I was out the back it was pouring rain, Sandown 500 '98, and I was out the back. I'm Bridie's out in the car. It's pouring rain. I'm saying, we've got to groove some more. We've got to groove
you're out there
wets.
with the groover.
No, and I'm saying to the tyre guys, we've got to do. I'm saying to Ross and Jimmy, let's just do it. We've got to. And anyway, that's the way I've always been. I've never shied away from having an opinion on what I thought could benefit the car. It's not to say it was always agreed with, but I always had an opinion all the way through. I always wanted to.
Try to help.
Try to have a point of difference. Try to be an extra person with knowledge that can provide an opportunity. Provide a different pathway, whatever, different idea with the car. And I just liked the way they did things. They were like me. They were like me. just get in and do it. So I'd always wanted to drive for Stones, and actually the end of midway through 2005 at LPs, Larry was great. He came to me and he said, mate, you need to have a look at what your options are for 2006, because I've just been told from Castrol that they're not going to be. And he said, if we don't have a sponsor, I can't afford to keep you, keep the team running, not keep me, keep the team running. I said, okay. So I'd been into the market, and I had done a deal contract. We're talking, this is December, right? 05, right? Larry still hasn't come to me. He hasn't.
Because Marcus is going to America.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. So that deal was done subject to I couldn't say anything until December 31 and Larry. And at that point I'm thinking, it's like, it was either November, December, Larry, and he hasn't said anything. Virtually.
So did you have a contract with Larry for the next year?
Yeah. So virtually, I'm sure we're in December now, right?
I reckon they've announced Courtney by then, though.
No, okay. So whenever it was.
Yeah, because I remember he was in Tassie because he'd driven for HRT in the Enduros.
Yep.
And gone off to do that deal. So somewhere later
somewhere later in that year, Larry's come to me and gone, I've got a sponsor. All right, who is it? I said, guaranteed sponsor. And he said, yep. I said, Larry, I've got a deal. It's done.
Agreed.
It's agreed.
Paper.
Yep.
Just got to sign it.
Contract. It's all here. And he goes, Richard, it's a deal. It's a guaranteed deal. You can't take it. And I went, okay. I said, well, so I had to ring Ross and say, no, sorry, can't do it. But it was done.
Agreed to.
It was agreed to, sorted money. It was.
You just had to wait it out.
Yep.
Till the end of the year that Larry couldn't do a deal.
Yep.
Wow.
And then Jack Daniels happened.
Mm.
Yeah. So anyway, it almost happened. I would have loved to have driven with the Stone Brothers just because we had that. I just felt like it was Larry's was great. I was so hands on there during that period, but I always thought, to drive with Ross and Jimmy would have been pretty cool.
Mm.
Yeah.
Sliding doors.
Yeah.
Who knows who, what, when, where, why, and how. I mean, the Gibson Commodore era is brief, but it's another Bathurst win.
Yeah.
So you drove across the line both years in a row, 98, 99, you're in the car each time.
Yep.
You drove the Monaro across the line to win as well. It's pretty rare that happens in that era when you're full-timers together, like that. Usually the averages would be that someone ends up in 1 year on the pit wall or something, that year you're in. You had the car every time.
Yeah.
Cool when you look at it that way too.
Unbelievable. Even the 24-hour race, I think it just worked out again. It was just luck. I happened to be it was either going to be Garth or me. Just the way the stints worked out, the way the night worked out, we had the problem with, and I happened to be in the car at the end.
Yeah, so. It's funny how this stuff happens. So we talk about deals changing and opportunities arising and all that sort of stuff. I vividly remember late 2000, all this stuff. So the story of the year is, where's Craig Lowndes going?
Yep.
It's like a Days of Our Lives soap opera. 1 minute he's going here, then he's going there, then he could be here, then he could be there. Like it was a long-running bouncing ball thing. But then it all starts to wash that he's definitely leaving HRT, he's definitely on the market, and he's going to land somewhere. The somewhere is where you have been.
Yep.
Was it you or Murph that was flying back somewhere through Singapore? That was you, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I remember being in the Motorsport News office when this is all kicking off.
Yep.
And you basically land and find out that there's some deal going on and your deal's been reneged.
Yep.
What was the whole story with it?
I always wondered why late in that year I could never get Gary to sign to provide
Gary Dumbrell
to verbalise the contract. Sorry, to
put it on paper.
We'd verbalised it was all happening. Yeah. But we'd never quite got it's with the lawyers, or it's here or there, whatever the case may be. And Ange and I gone back to the UK, go and visit our friend. In fact, I'd gone back to surprise Ron, my engineer, gone back to surprise him for his 30th birthday. All right. So we'd flown back there and we'd spent 2 weeks in the UK prior to Christmas. And anyway, we're over there, and a really good friend of mine, Bruce Tyson, was now working at Gibson Motorsport, helping out with some sub-assembly, and just he'd done a lot of stuff over in IMSA in the US in the 80s, Group C sports cars and stuff. And anyway, he rang me one day. I'm pretty sure I remember I was at Ron and his partner's house, Ange, and Bruce goes, "Hey, Richo, something's going on here." He said, "We've had people in here that wouldn't usually be in the workshop." He said, "I feel like I reckon Gary's doing something." I'm going, "Really?" All right, so I pick up the phone, I ring Gary, all right, but I get his PA. "So what's going on? I've heard, there's people in the factory, and the team's up for sale." No. I said, "Can I get you Gary to ring me?" Yeah, and Gary never rang me. So we're now in the plane on the way back from the UK because the trip's finished, back to Australia, and I get to Singapore, and there was another call from Bruce, and Bruce says, "Mate, there's 100% something is happening here."
And this is like what?
This is December. This is just
before Christmas.
No, this is
a bit earlier than that.
No, this is in December. I'm getting my years mixed up a bit.
2000.
Yeah, 2000. That's before Christmas, because I think we arrived back on the 21st or the 22nd of December. And Bruce goes, "Mate, there's 100% something's going on. Ring Gary." "No." Get his PA. "No, Steve, there's nothing. Gary just wants to let you know there's nothing happening." Yada, yada, yada. Righto. So we get on the plane, we're flying back, we get to Singapore, land, there's a message on my phone from Gary's PA. "Hey, Steve, just wanted to let you know Gary sold the team, and can you give Gary a call when you get back?" So anyway, I can't remember if I spoke to Gary or not, but the deal was done. It was all finished. So we arrived, I think from Singapore I rang Dad and I said, "Hey, this is what's happened. It's December the 20th. Can you just put your fingers out and see what might be around?" And Seto was, Seto hadn't
prompted was
had
left.
Yep. And as I found out, and I didn't know until a little while ago, that Cameron McLean was right in the
He was, I think there was a few that were in discussions and around the place and thought they had deals. Yep.
So that's sort of how all that happened.
So you had your old boy be a bit of a mini manager there for 10 hours while you locked on the plane.
I think he rang Glenn, and that's sort of when all that conversation sort of started.
It was such a rapid.
Yeah.
Again, things happen fast in your world.
Yeah.
One day, boom, we're flying to England. Boom, we're out of a deal and into a deal.
I know.
When you look back on all that stuff, it's kind of wild.
It is. It's unbelievable.
But when you're in it, it's just normal.
Yeah.
But when you're out of it,
well, that wasn't. That was all pretty. That was pretty stressful. All that stuff. We 1 minute we're cruising. We just won Bathurst. We're a team on the. We're sort of a team on the move. We always struggled with the budget a bit. That year, I think I'd won at Calder.
Yep. Canberra
had some pretty up and down moments and didn't finish too well in the championship, but it had some really good highlights and bits and pieces where it worked out really well. So I sort of thought the Kmart thing was good. Like it kind of.
Yep.
But the funding wasn't great. The funding, whatever money we had, wasn't necessarily huge, because we could never, the engine development was always a bit of an issue. That was probably our weak point at Gibson's. We never quite got the engines going that good. Plenty of commitment, but I just didn't understand at the time how little money we probably had for that program.
That's one hell of a trip back.
Yeah,
when that's all lobbing while you're on your transit between your flights.
But where there's smoke, mate, where there's smoke, there's always fire.
That nose of yours is good nose. You're just sniffing this stuff out like the Oscars at the Thunderdome with the tyres. So there's only 1 year with Glenn in the end.
Yep.
So 2001 we're talking here. So that's Ford Tickford Racing.
Yep.
Looks and smells like a factory team. It's not a factory team though. It's Ford sponsored, but there's lots going on in Ford land because now Lowndes is in Ford and the money's going to the Gibson program. That it's Gibson, but it's not because it's Bob Forbes' money, and then that all turns to crap. And anyway, it's a whole other chapter and a whole other podcast for another day. But then the Larry thing. So coming back to the Holden, I mean, the Holden and Ford, I think Holden always were very solid with their group of drivers in helping assist them move teams, or they were a bit of puppeteers in a way, but they built a tighter team of the Holden guys than the Ford guys
definitely.
did. So that made that stuff a bit easier.
Yeah, Holden did lots of things during that time that were really for young guys. I really felt like they had my back. I always thought, all of a sudden when we first come back drive for Gibsons, when we arrived, we didn't have a car. We'd sold our house. We'd come back to sort of nothing to start again after only 1 year. We should have rented the house out, not sold it, and done a few things differently. But Holden helped out with a car, and they were always there to sort of. They really did. Through Simon McNamara and Plastic and those guys, I thought they really did try and grab their drivers and however they could, whether it was a few bucks. It wasn't dollars early, but it was cars or help really keep you part of the family. Ford probably not until Marcus come along. I feel we're in that position until ProDrive happened, until the Lowndes thing.
Did they reveal? Do I remember this right? That it's kind of one of those things like when you've done a deal for a team, but you can't talk about it, and you've got to wait till a certain point. Am I right in remembering that because the Holden drivers' parties at the end of the year were infamous at the time with all the drivers and having a big day out and all that stuff? When you went back to Holden to go to Larry's, didn't they roll you out as the surprise guest at this party at the end of 01?
It was probably better than that. So I through FTR, it was obvious probably from the middle of the year that I think it was becoming really difficult for Glenn to financially run two cars. And look, it wasn't there were some highlights, but it wasn't a great year from a results perspective. And I'd sort of started to have some discussions with John Matthews about what 2002 looked like, and it was nothing confirmed, but I felt like potentially I needed to.
Where there's smoke.
Yeah.
So is there a little bit of the thing that you've just had with the Gibson thing that hang on a minute, I can read the tea leaves a little bit here. Yeah.
I'd already started, so at that point mid-year I'd started to talk a bit I was quite good friends with Sue Dilger.
Yeah, Castrol.
From Castrol. And I'd started to talk to Susie a bit about, I knew Russell was potentially on the move to do something different. And I sort of, it was maybe a year too early at LP's, but I also knew that LP was sort of looking to do something different as well. And confirmed by Susie with conversations potentially that were going on. So I'd started to speak to Larry a bit, and through Sue initially, and that kind of started to become a thing. Anyway, so
I feel like there's a story coming when you do the pause. Yeah. Anyway,
so
cool.
I now know that later in the year that it was pretty well the week before Bathurst in 01, that I had the discussion with Glenn and John about the following year, and was released to go and do my own thing. And at that point, the discussions with Holden were happening, and the Larry thing was growing legs and becoming a real thing. So anyway, by the time the Holden driver party, it's probably the only time in the history of the Holden driver end-of-year parties that it's happened where a Ford contracted person
Has arrived.
has
At all.
arrived. But what happened was, so I was talking to Simon McNamara and I said, right, hey, what about, and Gerald
Gerald
was
some
right,
PR there.
yeah. And what about if I dress up as Rory?
Rory the Lion,
Rory
mascot,
the Lion, the mascot, right?
which Gerald has done before.
Yeah. So of course, this particular time we were starting the Holden drivers' Christmas parties turned into huge events. Originally, they started for lunch, generally at what was a restaurant in South Yarra, a bit of a favourite of Plastics.
I can't remember now. I think they moved around a bit.
Yeah. But it started there.
Started as a lunch, but it
and
turned into a
it
lunch,
turned into
drinks, dinner, drinks.
Yep. And it turned
Whoever
into
could last the longest
morning.
after that.
Then eventually it was morning tea, lunch.
Yeah, it would start at 9 a.m. Yeah, there'd be penalties too.
Yep. So I've turned up early. There's a Lamborghini dealer in Clarendon Street, South Melbourne. I've got there early and I've got dressed up in the suit, right? And I'm out on Clarendon Street in the Rory the Lion suit. I'm jumping around and all the drivers are arriving, and I'm all the cars are beeping their horns and
no one's got a clue.
No one's got a clue. So as they arrive, and I'll never forget, Scafey rolls up, and they're all laughing. I go off and I grab hold of him and start wrestling him and give him a few punches and stuff like that. And he's getting a bit. So what is this? He's having a bit of a laugh. And Garth turns up, and I'm doing the same thing, and just generally mucking around. So anyway, we all go inside, and it's like we start coffee in the Lambo dealership, and everyone's some toasted sandwiches or whatever it was, and the guys are saying, "Who's this dickhead? Who's this dickhead in a suit?"
He's a bit much.
So Simon McNamara goes, "All right, we just wanted to share something with you that this guy here, he's come out for the day, but there's something a bit more relevant to it. He's going to be heavily involved with us next year." And they pull my head off, and it's me. And I got a good laugh.
The guy had been belting him up
Yeah,
as you.
yeah.
So it's amazing what you do in the suit when no one knows who you are.
That's right.
And
right. You get away with it.
And you get away with it. And then they knew who you were. So then the Larry year is a good one. Like,
great one.
It's there were so many of those early years where I think 03 and 04, you are competitive. Like you are winning races. You're in the top three regularly. You're around the podium. You're contending for the championship there in most of those years for the first. But then once you got sort of past the halfway mark near the Enduros, they kind of always just fell away for various and whatever reasons. But that seemed like a good fit.
Yeah, well, I love that.
Hands-on.
Yeah.
Larry's hands-on.
Yep.
It's simple. It's not, what do you always say? No palm trees, all that stuff.
Yeah. No, I loved it. And Larry was taking in more young people. Like he was really turning, backing the young guys, the young engineers, the mechanics. He was certainly very close and observing what they're doing and having input, but he was letting guys, young guys that had engineering degrees, he was letting them design parts of the car. He wouldn't let them change the tower in the centre.
Don't
you're
screw
not
with
changing
the tower
that,
of power.
But we were doing some really good things. And what I really like about that sort of time as well, and I've enjoyed every part of the journey, but it was hard. Like 02, 03, 04, 05, you were turning up against 6 HRT cars, you were turning up against 2 Stone Brothers cars, and you were turning up against a 888 that was starting to, like, I always felt like we were like
plus PWR.
Well, they were part of the 6.
Initially, they were,
sort of thing. You know what I mean? So I always felt like I always sensed us as being the real underdogs to any time. If we could get in the top 5, if we could qualify in the top 5, I was just wrapped. I thought, because these guys have got more money. They've got they're the technical powerhouse of supercars at the time.
Yeah, it's true.
The regulations that were around at the time, the freedoms, engine freedoms. We had a great budget from Castrol and ours, but we weren't there, right? We weren't quite the Clayton. We're just down the road from Clayton and Moorabbin, but we didn't quite, we were always up against
Yeah.
the behemoth sort of thing, and stones coming on, all that sort of thing. And I love that. I love the fact that I could be in the workshop and I could be a part of the process to try and make our cars better, to try and, don't get me wrong, I never got it right, and there's plenty of mistakes along the way, and there are other reasons, but I always thought, like, the satisfaction for getting a result during that period, for me, was massive. It was massive. And I was naive enough to think, not naive, maybe a bit naive, but I thought that with my knowledge of how I liked to think that I was a part of the process of making the car go better outside the car, my knowledge of the mechanics of the car, I could help be a part of the process to get a result. But the reality is, you still needed a hell of a. The more money you have in motorsport, the more resource you've had, the better, So there was all that to it as well. And the Larry years were excellent. I think, as you said, 02 was quite unique. Larry and Russell and me in 02.
Yeah, three cars. And Russell very much going.
Yes.
The Larry Russell thing wasn't.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't a great relationship. There were things going on there. But I found my feet pretty quickly within that. And, Russell and I had a great enduro campaign.
Second at both of them. Yeah.
And if it wasn't for my mistake at the last safety car
at Bathurst.
Is
that the one that got away? There's a few that got away. Is that one of them?
We weren't fast enough on the day, but our team generally, in terms of strategy, particularly Sean Hockey, who was our engine guy, he'd run a lot of the strategy along with Barry, Baz, Ryan, and Steve Henderson there early on, who's still great mates with today. I work with him up until a few weeks ago. I still work with Steve at the caravan place.
You've had a couple of runs. Hang on.
Yeah.
You and Hendo were at Seton's together.
Yep.
Larry's together.
Yep. He started at Gibson Motorsport. He was doing his last year of uni at Gibson's.
Yeah. Team 18.
Yep.
Have I missed anyone in between?
Yeah, he worked with us in the BMW program.
The BMW GT3 car.
Yep.
And in caravan land.
Yeah.
You two just hang out a lot.
Good people, mate.
Yeah. If you find them, stick with them, don't you?
Yep.
Yeah, 02, Bathurst.
Yeah. So the strategy, we'd had both cars were running 1-2 with
miles in front because it rained.
Yes. Yep.
And was it Russell and PD? Before the last stint,
that's right.
They gapped your old man in Scafie's car.
Yep.
They just drove away, and because Jim was taking it very careful because marking his championship on the line.
That's right.
The two Castrol cars were 1-2 miles down the road.
30 seconds.
Miles. Long way. This could be a 1-2.
Yep.
Bathurst.
Safety car.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Bathurst.
So we line up. I think the first safety car. I think there were two safety cars. I think Scafie got PD.
I
need to watch it. Yeah. But then anyway, we lined up for the last safety car, and I was in the lead, and I actually wrong slotted the gear off Murray's corner. I was in the wrong gear.
Oh, onto the way to the
yeah. And the worst part about that was we knew HRT were a bit quicker. They had particularly better early stint pace than we had, but they had a plastic bag in there. So potentially, I think, well, Jesus Christ,
if he's jammed up behind you,
he's jammed up behind me, it's not going to be an issue. But I made a mistake, and that's one that Russell should have had on the board for sure. I think.
Yep. Is 07 the other Bathurst that sort of gets away a bit? Yeah, I mean, it's not as close to the end.
No, exactly. There's
so
still
many
a lot
things that happen.
There's still a lot that played out at the end of that race. But if you looked at a race other than probably 15, I reckon a race where our car was so good that we raced Lowndes and Jamie all day long. And either we were in front or they were in front. And I thought our car was better because we seemed to always pop out generally at some point of the stint at the right time in the lead. I think we traded lap records. Jamie and I traded lap records in the latter stint before Frosty got in. it was just a great car, great weekend, fastest, co-driver sessions, main driver sessions. We were always in the top 2 or 3. It was just a great weekend. RD always says, he says, we had you that day. I said, no way, mate. That's the one that we should have broken your 3-run drought.
Yeah, that would have been right in the middle of it all.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, because they win another one the next.
So
year
but there was too much went on in the back half of that race with the weather and everything to really.
The variable level was high. Yeah. That's probably the way to sum it. So the Larry era goes into the FPR era.
Yep.
Man, we're covering some ground here. But it probably doesn't deliver.
No,
it doesn't deliver the bannerhead race wins, championship contention. There's the odd race win, and the graph has a couple of spiky bits, but for the budget, for the level of the team, it's a bit new. It's pretty nude in the trophy cabinet for that period.
Yep.
When you look back on it,
definitely
of where it was probably. It's just not quite. What's the bannerhead result of 07, 08, 9? It's kind of not really a race where got a Bathurst there or a Adelaide there or a championship there.
Yep. I think even at Bathurst, while we were unbelievably competitive, it was it wasn't a standout. There were other races, particularly Frosty was coming on pretty strong. I struggled with consistency that first year. I couldn't quite find the setup that was working. But by 2008, I really felt like the car was coming pretty good. We had some good, strong results. And Bathurst, probably 2008 was probably the toughest Bathurst I had to swallow from a performance perspective. We just couldn't get the understeer out of the car all day. The team had done an unbelievable job to get us. We were running with 20 to go. We're second, and the car was terrible. It really was just strategy that got us there. Because the understeers, you're having to use the throttle so hard to get the car to turn, it was torching the rear tyres. But we had enough of a gap. We're probably going to finish second. And then there was the last safety car at the end, and we got gobbled up late in the race.
Murph and Courtney.
Yeah, and
I can picture you in the. Are you in the car or in the pits?
Yeah, no, I was in the car.
You're in the car because Frosty in the pits, because he's still not been on the podium at Bathurst by that stage.
Yeah.
And you can see your things like a bus. It doesn't want to turn.
No,
getting eaten alive.
I've never been so disappointed after a race. Just helpless. Just the amount of effort that went into, and the amount of the amount that the team had done. Like, we were making changes at every. Most stops we were trying to get this thing to. And we never resolved it. There was no reason why the car should have been that bad, but we never resolved it. We just couldn't get rid of this understeer right from the first stint, And anyway, that's probably the most gutting year I reckon I've ever had at Bathurst, for the effort that everyone put in and the position we were in, which we shouldn't have been. Everyone drove we both drove the guts out of the car. The team got us to a position where we were in contention, and we just couldn't get the result for.
And it's.
But it was a hard. But what happened at the end of 2008? We'd been doing some things in the car. We'd been. With Phil Keed on my car, both cars, we'd gone down a path where we were using this is an era where you're able to use springs inside the dampers, much like a twin spring setup. It was effectively a twin spring setup. The end of 2008, Supercars banned it. We'd also had some things we were doing with the cross member that got banned, and when we turned up for 2009 with the FG, same thing happened. It was just like gone from Oran Park, the last round, the last race being on the front row, jumped the start, got penalised. What I'm saying is our competitiveness towards the end of 2008 was really quite good. Darwin, won in Darwin.
Yeah. The Holden flag.
Yeah, the bloody Holden flag.
Gus still loves that one.
Yeah, that's right. And there were some hints of good performance. We'd started testing. We were the homologation team for the FG. Some of the changes had made some of those technical changes had made a particularly big difference to our cars. And 2009, it was like, I've just been the last race of the year of sprint racing on the front row, and here we are. first round and the first half of 2009 can't qualify in the top 15. Like and yet Frosty wasn't suffering. He wasn't going as well as he had done, but he hadn't slipped as far as what I had, and that year was particularly tough. Pretty quickly there were rumours circling that I was going to be replaced, and I just couldn't. I changed.
Sort of like the spiral started. Yeah, you couldn't undo it. It just kept going.
You know, you start to think, I've got to change the way I train. I've got to change the way I've got to get into the workshop more. I've got to try and arrest this drama that it's like someone's chopped my leg off. You know, what's going on? Anyway, it was getting pretty stressful, and it sort of continued into 2010. Castrol, we'd done a lot of work at the end of 2008 to help the team keep Castrol in the car. There were definitely some signs where they were wanting to do some other things outside motorsport, and you know, I'd been involved with Castrol's leadership team on, you know, hey, we're talking about going to a different oil company, and I'm a Castrol guy, and anyway, they stayed with us in 2009. But that was it. 2009, they were gone. We rolled into 2010, and I just couldn't arrest this form slump. Rumours that I was going to be replaced through 2009. Just felt like, you know, really, it was hard. Like it was really, you know, you change the way you do all the things that you thought were the keys to helping you be successful. However that was, it was like, I've got to change it, or maybe, you know, I've woken up after Christmas, had too much Christmas pudding, and now I don't know how to do it. Everything.
You know?
Yeah. And then 2010 was, you know, not really any better, I think, but there was a change. So we got to a point where I think Frosty got a new car for 2010, and I'd been moved into Frosty's car. No, I was still in my 2009 car, and we went up to Winton to do a test, and I jumped in Frosty's car, and it was different. It was turning better. It was just, the car was different. So my engineer at the time, he suggested we change chassis. So I jumped into Frosty's 2009 car, and it was like,
I'm back.
It's changed.
Yep. But was that too late to undo that?
It's too late. Because it was all done.
And it's unravelled the team's confidence. They're looking at the market.
Yep.
They're going.
I'd already started to go looking elsewhere again. I'd gone up to see Ross Stone.
So again, the
again. Yep. And that was a discussion. It never obviously never eventuated, but in the end, the decision was that no, they couldn't take the risk on me because the performance hadn't been good enough, really. Even though the last few races of the year, I think Indy qualified on the front row, I think, and we led the race with Will Power. Yep. And then there was a kerfuffle at the stop, but anyway,
he wasn't ready.
We were competitive. Like all of a sudden, one change, and we were back. Sure, we didn't end up, other than the last race of the year, the last full-time race
Homebush.
At Homebush, we finished second. So, but it was all too late, and probably the only time, maybe, where you regret being the negotiator of your own contracts.
Great point. I was going to ask you earlier. Every one of your deals, from what we've talked about here, is you.
Yep.
Did you ever have a manager at any stage? You always did all your own stuff.
Yep. Always did all my own stuff. And that was probably, I'd say, at that point of your career, if you had have had someone in your corner, because it's an emotional roller coaster. You've lost your confidence.
You need someone.
You're questioning every decision you make. You don't go into a meeting full of confidence, being able to stand your ground because the results aren't on the board to back you up. That's the point in time that you need someone. I think probably the only time of my career where I felt that was a negative, doing my own deals, because I was just in a space where I thought, and look, credit to to Tim and FPR, they still saw huge value in keeping me on as a co-driver, and Ford really looked after me during those co-driving years. So you sort of got to a point where, and many drivers do that are finishing their full-time careers, they go, do I try and get a full-time drive in a team that's
down the back, or
that's going to be hard to get the results that you're after, or do you stay in a really competitive team and look to the future of what co-driving looks like? And at that point, Ange and I decided, well, let's look at the opportunity to continue racing, doing our own thing where we're in control of our destiny. We're not reliant on others that may not have our best interests at heart, and we can go down that path. So yeah, that sort of came to a head once I'd sort of met Ross in a car park, because we didn't want to car park up at Logan, I think, and we're chatting, and that's sort of when he said, look, we can't, the guys that we've got here at the moment we're pretty happy with, and I've spoken to Jimmy, and it's probably not something we can do. So at that point I sort of thought, well,
it's probably telling me
it's probably
what I need to know.
Yep.
But it does open up that great opportunity to do sliding doors.
Yeah.
It's easy to
absolutely
crack the sads and go, no, they don't want me, so I don't want them.
Yep.
No. This is a good car. This is a good team. You get to drive with Frosty.
Yep.
You get to run your Porsche Carrera Cup program.
Yes.
With great partners and great friends, and an experience that not many people get to do it that way in car racing.
Yep.
Win a Carrera Cup title, which is going to be unbelievably satisfying because you did it yourself as your own team with your own family. And then you get a Bathurst win anyway with FBR,
absolutely.
who haven't won for 10 years, and Frosty hasn't won.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely the right decision.
But you are the living definition of why Friday night television is dangerous at Bathurst. And through your Bathurst assault into somewhat of disarray, a little, by trying to put together a tent live on television on 7 Mate at Friday Night Live.
Yep. That was every Bathurst you do is different for different reasons.
That was different.
Yeah, and highlights for different reasons. Like the 2002 one. You're in something happened. My mistake. You live and learn from it. You regret it. It's terrible. So many people at Perkins Engineering and Castrol and Russell, like that should have been. That should have been another one for him. And you go, okay, for that reason. But then 13 was just like, it was a weird year. It was the first year the track had been resurfaced.
First year car of the future.
First year car of the future. I had actually, so James Small was running the car. Now, I can't quite remember why this happened, but James wanted me to do, Frosty, I think, had to go, and he had a commitment, sponsor commitment, that popped up late, that was scheduled for a test, our pre-Enduro test day. And James said, no, someone decided, I'm only assuming it was James, no, we've got to go and do this test day. We'll just get Richo in the car all day.
Which is when you're a co-driver, gold.
Yeah, perfect. Best preparation you could ever have. I'm driving Carrera Cup anyway, so I'm match fit. I feel the supercars are still just an extension of your driving. I really still felt like I was in the groove. And anyway, we go up there. So we're racing Carrera Cup the same weekend in the support categories. And Friday Night Live, we're going to get, Steve and Jim
against
Chaz and Eddie.
And the Mosterts.
Yeah, and righto, the competition is you've got to set up a tent.
There must have been a sponsor commitment.
Yeah,
that's barbecues galore. I don't know. Something's
exactly,
going on with that somewhere. I don't know.
So you had to. I can't remember what it was, but you had to.
But you had to put it up.
Yeah, you had to put it up, take it, get in, get out, take it down. Anyway, I've gone and whacked the tent out of Stevie J's hands to try and they've gone go, and I've gone over and whacked it out of their tent to try and get it.
You tried to
cheat.
I
tried to cheat.
Hey, karma got you here, didn't it? For trying to cheat.
It did, big time, big time. And we've set up, and I've dived in to the tent, and my back's gone. I've always had a bit of a lower back.
I was going to say, is there
I've had to manage.
existing?
Yeah, and it comes. I'm sure it comes from pressing the brake pedal because my back nowadays is perfect.
Right.
I'm sure it comes from pressure on the brake pedal and flexing your back anyway.
Yeah.
So this is Friday night, and I'm really quite concerned about this. I had Glenn Lindsay was our team physio, ripper guy, and I've said to Glenn, and usually what happens with these back things is they flare up
At the worst time.
and they flare up 12 hours later, right? So
After
the
you do
thing
it.
happens,
Yeah, you're right.
and then you go to bed
Well, not too bad.
and you wake up the next morning.
Well,
it's like,
bad.
So Glenn's got me. I'm hanging upside down in the back of our truck, and I
Hanging upside down, like full
on
back
in
spec.
a like a
Oh.
Phil
Young?
Phil Young.
Yeah.
He had a table that could rotate.
Hmm.
So we set it up in the Carrera Cup truck, and Glenn would be, he was giving me physio on the back, and I was on painkillers and stuff, and I'd be upside down in the truck, hanging from my ankles to try and
Sort of stretch it out and
release the nerve. And thankfully, the one place that it was okay was actually sitting in the car. It was the one place of all the places where it was still uncomfortable, but it didn't stop you from operating the car properly. And I wondered whether I should. Obviously, I told the team about it, but it
didn't tell anybody else though.
No.
Do you you're one of those ones that like keep the secret. No one needs to know.
No one
Others don't need to know.
No. So Frosty knew. I played it down. I didn't, but it was bad. Like, it was as bad as I'd ever had. And Glenn knew about it. He knew how sort of serious it was. Tim he did.
Yeah.
But there was a point on Saturday where I was thinking, I've got to, like, if I get in at the race practice session in the afternoon or whenever in the morning, and I can't, I've probably got to be honest enough to make a call. But then what? But then who?
Yeah.
Like, here we are. We're on. I think we're front row.
Yeah.
Like,
biggest race of the year.
This just will throw a spanner in the works big time. So anyway, we managed it, but
that's understatement.
Yeah,
it worked out okay.
It worked out all right.
But the telling bit in that race is, as you've been out that's the third year you're not full time. You end up the shuffle of the drivers you're out of whack.
Yep.
You're racing the main game blokes, and you're up against Wing Cup.
Yep.
And you put in probably, I reckon, just about the stint of your Bathurst career that keeps you guys in the game.
Yep.
When you're up against, everyone knows that. Okay, you're not going to quite be at the level of a full timer when you're a co-driver, even if you're a very good co-driver.
Right. Yeah.
But that period in the car is gold. You don't win the race without that.
No, there's certain points of my career that are really poignant in sort of memories, and one of those from 13. Well, there's two. The track had been resurfaced, but it was really tricky. Like, the cars that year were so unstable. Going across the top, like the rear of the cars were stepping out all the time, which is fast. It's always fast when the cars are like that, but it's hard to manage. It's a bit uncomfortable, and Frosty wasn't as comfortable as I was with it for whatever reason. He said, and I didn't mind it. I sort of could manage it okay. And the other one was midway through. I think I doubled. Frosty started. Because I was on the table being worked on.
You're still getting prepped while he's starting the race.
While he's starting the race, and so I'm rocking around. It's going all right, and pace is good. Like, I going okay, and I was in a bit of a gap somewhere. I can't remember what position I was, but Smalley comes on the radio and he goes, "Hey, Richo, doing a good job. How you feeling, mate? You going okay?" And I went, yeah, no problem. And he goes, You're the fastest car on track. You've just set the fastest lap of the race.
Not just of the stint, of the whole race.
And he said, and the race was slow because of the track condition. The race times were actually quite slow, like a couple of seconds off what the previous year's times were. And I said, no, I feel really good. He said, oh, that's no drama. I don't, just letting you know, you probably know if you are pressing on, you don't need to, kind of thing. It's not going to be.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was just comfortable. And then the other point that I thought this is going okay, there was a safety car at some point, and teammate Will, we're a little bit out of sync with tyres, but he was second on the road, and I thought, okay, this is going to be a test. I don't want to hold him up. I don't want to risk, the team are in a good position here, but we got going, and I sort of
kept going.
Yeah.
Good scenario.
Yeah.
Because the questions were starting to be asked. 10 years and FPR hasn't won this race. Frosty's not been with FPR for 10 years, but a fair chunk he hasn't won it. Actually, he hadn't been on the podium, I don't think, until he won it. How different is it when you're the co-driver? Because the rules had changed to full-time co-driver, whereas back in the day you and Murph could be together, or whatever combo, you could do whatever you want. But it's very definitive. You're the other guy.
Yeah.
And it's always sort of claimed as Mark Winterbottom wins, or Jamie Pickup wins, or Garth Tander wins, or whoever it might have been.
Yeah.
But personally, satisfaction-wise, is that probably the most satisfying? Given those
I think
challenges, the way you performed.
Yes, 100%.
All of those bits that probably he's overlooked.
Yep. I don't care about that stuff, but I think back, yes, personally, because I was dealing with this other stuff that was going on.
And didn't flare at all?
No, you'll see in the driver changes, they weren't great.
You're a little bit...
Yeah, they weren't great driver
You're a bit
changes.
grandpa in your way, in and out.
But thankfully, while it was there, it wasn't distracting. I was on enough drugs and anti-inflammatories and things and painkillers that it wasn't a distraction.
Then the
focus. Yep.
All that's going on, so it works out.
So yeah, but I was more that win also was more about FPR. It was like
a lot of people have been there for a lot of years. Yeah. Finally.
Yep. And that all when you have a good result, for me, it's not the personal satisfaction happens the moment you cross the line. The satisfaction of the result happens when you're with the team, when you're having a beer with them after the race, when you're just talking about the week.
What about this?
Yeah, what about this? Remember that.
Remember when Richo put up that 10 the other night?
Yeah. Remember when all those things? They're the bits that I like. In those results, it's seeing the elation within the group. I don't. The personal, trophies to me they're great. They're not the things that I remember. The things that I remember about any of the results I have is the Darwin 2008 at the Hog's Breath Hotel for dinner, everyone having beers and laughing, and because it was a great team result. It's the night 98. It's the night the team at the Leagues Club.
I was going to say Leagues Club.
And everyone's trolleyed, right?
What are you going to say, paralytic then?
Yeah. Everyone's trolleyed, and they're all just having we're having such a good time. They're having such a good time. The effort that's gone into it. They're the bits that I really love and enjoy about all those things that have happened over the time. The race thing is good, but it's that stuff that I get the buzz from.
What was the best after party, Bathurst? See, it's very different when you're in 98, 99, your mid-20s. Yeah. Let's go, we're on it. 13, though, a bit more mature. We've got kids, we're married. There's, more responsibilities in life, all that sort of stuff.
The problem was from 2011 onwards, I'm driving the Porsche truck home the next day. So there was never.
You did not plan as well. Potential victory needed to be planned for.
No, there's always some good food, good conversation, just the level changed.
Toned.
Yep.
Yeah. Didn't have to stagger home and deal with it on Monday morning.
Yeah.
So I guess then the obvious thing is, why leave? You've just won Bathurst, and then you're not back there to defend it with the same team the next year. But having said that, the team that you go to is top-notch, but Why and how?
It's another one of those, a bit like the Gary Rogers Nissan thing. You sort of, I was a little bit disheartened the way the full-time thing finished and how it was managed. I was relieved for becoming the co-driver when I thought, but I just thought that 13 win was a bit of a line in the sand thing. It was finally FPR got the result. It was with Frosty. You know, I'd seen Frosty. I joined FPR. Frosty had just been married. I'd seen him be the just, even as a teammate, the hunger that I was back when I was young to just be as good as you could possibly be and be, you know, the thirst and the hunger for a result and at any cost, even your teammate, even me, right? Yeah. I could see that and I loved it. And then I saw him when he had kids and I saw him grow into this really strong person. And I thought, if I'm going to do anything different, now's the time. I'm in the best position I can be if I'm going to go and move teams and do something. So I'd had a bit of a conversation with HRT and through Garth. I'd actually asked, because Garth and I are good friends, and I said, what if? Sort of posed the what if thing, and he went, oh yeah, you know, that'd be good. So I started a conversation, and then we're at Phillip Island. Can't remember in 13. Phillip Island was late.
Penultimate round. That's the weekend that James Courtney got smashed into by Alex Prema.
Yes.
That weekend. Yep.
So believe it or not, I was there with FPR, and I was going onto the grid because Frosty was in the hunt for the championship. Still, kind of, right? He was second or third. Anyway, he was sort of in the mix, and I was walking out onto the grid for race start. All right, and I bumped into Ludo. Ludo's standing again doing the Ludo thing. As the cars are rolling out for the formation to the grid, Ludo's sort of, I could see him. He's watching the cars,
looking at wing angles,
having a bit of look, tyres, whatever the case may be. And I just pulled up, stood next to him, and I don't know what spurred it. We're talking because we always talk with Ludo. Ludo's at the time into motorbikes, and we'd done track days together with Triple Eight at Broadford and road bike track days and things, and Ludo was always there and always got on really, really good with him. And I said to him, hey, Ludo, what are you guys doing for co-drivers next year? Should I give Roland a call? And then Ludo looks up at me and he goes, definitely.
That's a very good Ludo impression, by the way.
So from that I thought, okay, why not? You know.
So you don't have a commitment to FPR. Your deal's up.
My contract's up at the end of that year. So okay, well,
why not?
Gave Roland a call the next day, and it's funny, like FPR were, you know, if the contract was there, sign it, and that would have happened. There was a HRT discussion going on, and that was bubbling for many reasons. And I rang Roland the next day, and this is typical of Roland, right? It was, first of all, it was yes,
there's a spot.
Yes, there's a spot. I want to talk to Craig. He spoke to Craig. I'm going to say, I don't know how long, but I'm going to say within the same day he spoke to Craig. Craig was, yep.
Roland moves fast.
Yep.
Bang.
No, the next thing I said to him was, Roland, I hear that you don't like the drivers' families potentially being, I said, if I'm going to drive for you, my stipulation is my family have to be involved. They have to be welcome.
In the garage.
In the garage at the track. He said, 100%, no problem. So then we spoke about the money. And I reckon, I can't remember, but I reckon within 24 hours, Done.
And
2 years.
And this wasn't even a case of trying to up a deal and play it off against FPR. This was, well, if you do the pros and cons, what you've just achieved at the place you've been at.
Yep.
Hey, a new challenge here. It's driving with Craig. It's 888.
Exactly.
If you're going to trade in what you've just done,
yes.
this is probably the only thing just about you're going to trade in for.
Yep.
So it's bang. There's a pattern here. Stuff happens in your world that's quite big in your racing career, and it happens real fast.
Yeah.
Really fast.
Yeah. And again, the
how's the called FPR? How does that all go down?
Yeah. Not great.
Because they thought.
Right. Yes.
Even though it's not signed,
we'd
done a deal in essence.
Terms were, in terms of what we'd spoken about, it was all kosher. It was, another hard decision. And I intentionally, because Frosty was in contention for the championship, I didn't want to distract any. If I didn't want to be a reason for a distraction about. Yeah. So I left it until after the last race, before I informed Tim. And it wasn't a nice. It was a hard conversation. It wasn't great. They done a lot of good things for me, and I don't regret the decision at all. Not at all. But it was a bit messy. Got a bit messy.
Sort of works that way for drivers and teams over their careers. That sometimes a team plays it that way against a driver that they don't.
The
tell
hard
them
thing is
everything.
there's a friendship.
There's personal.
There are personal relationships involved in that, and that's all. That it was a bit frosty for a little bit of time there, but we got
that's
part of
that's how it is.
Part of the thing. Yeah.
And then there's 2 more Bathurst wins.
Yeah.
On that journey, 15 and then 18 as well. So who's not to say that if you stay where you were that you're going to get another one?
That's right. Again, it was that it comes back to that thing in 98 where I believed in the decisions and the way that I made those decisions. And sometimes they're tough calls. They've got to be made, and this was another one of those. It was like a moment in time on that pit wall, talking to Ludo. I had a great relationship, friendship with Roland, regardless of that stuff. It was just right. And he saw as much opportunity as I did, and he just grabbed it.
Bang.
Yep.
Done.
Yep.
Given the way that the full-time thing finished with you questioning yourself and, all right, hang on. No. I changed a few things. No, this is right. Do you feel justified in the way you've approached all that stuff, the results that came with the 888 wins later on down the line, the way you went about everything, the way that everything unfolded? It all happens kind of for a reason.
Yeah, it does. And I look, I'm genuinely a good person. I
don't think there's anyone in racing that knows you.
I'm upfront and honest, and I don't play games. What you see is what you get. I don't have regrets. I might have. I got better at the dividing the business and the personal, and there's not really anything I ever regret that I did. Along the way, for a short period, there might have been relationships that were slightly tarnished for a little period, but they
catch back up.
But it's the same thing. I'm not any different of the person I was before that decision was made to after it. I haven't changed. And at the end of the day, it's business.
Yeah,
it was business.
Probably the bit that people forget too. That it's your livelihood. It's
yep.
That's just kind of how it flows.
Yep.
What's the standout memory of 15 Bathurst? Because 18 kind of probably takes the cake a bit more, given it was the Lowndes retirement year and the car hadn't been going well in the lead up. It was kind of a bit against the odds, but 15's kind of a little bit forgotten compared to that.
Yeah, I think it is. And I remember after the warm up, so the cars were fast in 15. Both cars were fast, and probably the standout for me was we Sunday morning, just these little things. I wouldn't mean anything to anyone else, but they're little decisions that were made or things that we did. And we came in after the morning warm up, and the car was good, but we'd gone with a I just remember on our car compared to Jamie's car, we'd gone with a slightly stiffer setup. Wasn't quite as fast in the morning, but the forecast for the day was no rain. Wasn't going to rain, right? And just from previous experience and this sort of comes back to one of the things Roland said to me when I joined the team, he said, look, your value is that you can genuinely make a contribution and in the debriefs to what the car's doing. And he said, rightly or wrongly, you should never stop doing that because it's information we can get. And in the morning walk, I just said, I just reckon we went for this stiffer setup in the car, and I reckon, to me, it's just, in my mind, there's no way I would change it, even though we might not see the results in the early part of the race. It had happened before, I think, in 07 maybe, where we'd backed ourselves. No, it wouldn't have been 07. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But I just thought, I really believe that as the last 3 stints of the race, it's cooling down. The middle of the day was going to be quite hot. The car would just come into its own and it'd be really, really good. And I discussed that with Lowndes and he sort of agreed. He's pretty carefree. He's like, no worries.
That's a Craig, yeah.
Yeah. So we left it in there and the car was really quick. Like in that last part of the race when Lowndes was in the car, it was really fast. And who knows what would have happened if Jamie hadn't have passed the safety car, but I think our car was the equal of Jamie's on that day, and it just was determined by track position. Wouldn't have mattered. So that was satisfying. That was just like a little satisfying moment, and that's the way I've always tried to be. I've loved being a part of the car side. I really understand what we're doing and ask questions, and hopefully not at the expense of people think I'm wasting their time. I don't think so. I think our team's always, I think the team's always sort of valued that contribution.
What about 18's a bit different too, because he's become the third wheel by that stage. Van Gisbergen's arrived. Yep. He and Jamie are the Red Bull guys, but Roland always had the respect for Craig and the contribution of the team and finding a way to put together something for him to be in that. It was Caltech's car for a little bit, and then it was the Autobahn car for that year. It was steering, wasn't it? Yeah. In the lead up. It was a nightmare that I remember thinking, you guys are just not the way that your lead up had been. I don't think anyone really factored you guys in, and you probably didn't factor yourself in.
We definitely didn't.
No points though that time, thankfully. So.
No, but to the point where there wasn't a session I drove in the lead up to the race that wasn't affected by power steering. I never got to come into pit lane in a race type scenario without a problem. So until the warm up, I hadn't had an attack at pit entry. To get to the 40k line. So there was that thing, and also to a point where on Saturday night, so we park out the back. We had a caravan next to Lowndes in the paddock, and naturally it was a huge event for Lowndes, being his last full time one. A lot of eyes on him, and so we quite at night time it was just we'd jump into one another's caravans and have a bit of nibblies and maybe a glass of wine or whatever, or a beer, and it'd be pretty relaxed. But on the Saturday night, we really thought, as much as it wasn't spoken about, it was like we were making light of the fact that if we get through the first stint and we complete our laps without any problems, then maybe we can start to sort of think about how we're going to attack the race. But the team, and this is where the teams really stand up. Like Irish, who was our engineer, I've never seen an engineer over a race weekend work so hard on trying to solve a problem. He was, I think he was up until, there was a sign during the shootout lap. Lowndes actually managed to get through the lap without too much of a problem, but then it did sort of, that was the first sort of sign that maybe things were going to change. And the guys had just worked tirelessly I can't even remember what the ended up. They did find a problem. I can't quite remember what it was, but we'd sort of resigned our factor that Sunday was going to be pretty tough. It was going to take a lot of good fortune for us to get a result. So we were sort of discussing that, having a good time as we were relaxing, and we'd had a bottle of wine with the girls in there, and we opened
Perfect Bathurst prep.
we opened up another bottle of wine.
Oh, second bottle.
Yeah,
Why not?
And by this time,
if we're DNFing at lap 50, why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
By this time, it's sort of, I don't know, it's getting on 11:30, and Lowndes goes, should we open another bottle? And the girls go, hey,
you are driving.
You guys shouldn't. And we go, oh yeah, you're probably right. We probably won't. Yeah. So anyway, we go to bed, and that's how, I guess, going to Sunday, we were both so relaxed because we really had no expectation of anything. The week had been
whatever.
Yeah. While they'd found something on Saturday that, for the first time ever, we'd made more than 3 laps without a power steering issue. That was pretty good, but then to go in the race and all of a sudden it's like, that was good, stint by stint. Well, that felt pretty good. I come rushing into the pits just as it started to rain and slipped off the road, but didn't really cost us too much. We got away with it, and Lowndes got in. I think I got in for, I can't remember where I did the double, whether it was early or late, but the one Irish had said to me, he said, look, we're all of a sudden everyone's a bit more buoyed. We haven't got it appears we haven't got a problem. We're trucking on the cars fast. And an Irish came and he said, look, mate, we unfortunately, I'm only giving you tyres that are, the best about was shirts, so they'll all be fronts. But they've done a stint or whatever the case was, and
so as he's
want to make sure that Lowndes is doing the triple with good tyres. So yeah, no problem. So we get in there and we start pressing on, and it's all right. I think we're running 4th or 5th or something like that, and it's all right. Sort of quite easily keeping. I can see. I think Luke Holden was leading. Maybe anyway, whoever it was, I'd come out of Forest Elbow, and he was just going up the hill, and then I think Earl Bamber was behind me, and the other Red Bull car was just up there. Anyway, it was all going good, and I thought, well, quite early on, I was actually fuel saving a lot. Right, I was actually fuel saving. The pace was still pretty good. I hadn't really pressed on the whole stint. I'd been able to maintain decent pace, not let the leaders get away, and I was really conscious of I'll just save fuel.
Right now, you're also thinking, thank God we didn't have that 3rd bottle of wine, because we're actually in this.
Yeah, it didn't come to me at the time, but this is probably a good point.
Probably in the back of the brain somewhere. There. Yeah.
And then because of the fuel saving, we managed to get a couple of laps on the guys in front of us who pitted, and then Irish said, "Righto, mate, go." And for that next couple of laps, or 2 or 3 laps before we pitted, I remember we actually drove away from Earl. I think he was behind us, and increased by a couple of seconds. And then when we pitted, because of the fuel saving, we jumped the 2 cars who had pitted before us, and then we were second. So we came out of that. We're either 4th or 5th, and we came out of the pits, stop cycle in second. The other thing we had happen on that day was quite early on, we couldn't adjust the rear anti-roll bar.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
We couldn't get it any softer than mid. So late in the stint, we were suffering a bit of tyre deg, and probably getting too technical with all this chat now, but Lowndes managed to get it to full soft, and it made 0.3 of a second.
So without that happening, if that stuck for the day,
and that happened around the period where Dave was starting to fade, and
so it made a handy difference.
Yeah, it made a difference. Yeah.
By that stage that you said about the deal with Roland and want to have the family there. By that stage, Clay and Priya are older.
Yeah.
So they're actually aware of what's going on here rather than being tiny little tots.
Exactly. And that was the other thing. So during all the other wins, first 2 wins, they weren't alive. They didn't come with us to Bathurst in, was it Ange 13 and 15? They hadn't, they for some reason, so
it's their first one.
Yeah, so 18 is the first time they've
Good one to go.
Yeah.
Retire, just one and done.
Yeah.
Don't go back. Problem solved.
Yeah.
Did you go into that knowing that your last Bathurst with 888? Obviously, it was Craig's last as a full-timer. He would just be a Red Bull co-driver.
Yep.
Shane needed a co-driver.
Yes.
Ultimately, it was Caruso, then Tander.
Yep.
But did you go in there knowing that there's probably no...
I'd been speaking with Roland over the weekend. I did know that, and Roland had said, look, there was a question mark over Will Davison's full-time
23
career, right? And there was a possibility. Roland had been open with me. He said, look, the best people to have in these cars are current drivers, which I didn't disagree. And I actually, it's one of the few times I actually fought for my spot as a co-driver, and I sent a big email to Roland and I said, hey,
all the reasons why.
Here are the reasons why, because definitely in 18, not being in the Red Bull, and in 16, 17 and 18 as the third car, we were, we had great people, but we were not Red Bull. While we were involved in debriefs and all that sort of thing, we were left to our own devices sort of thing. So people weren't really focused on not being disrespectful, but there was a clear focus on the 2 Red Bull cars. And that I think that's pretty natural. But so I really wanted to point out the points of my time with 888 to Roland. I wanted to fight for that spot. And he had said to me, look, we haven't decided on a co-driver for Shane, but there are some full-time drivers that look like that we're very interested in. He said, you're not out of the picture. I need to talk to Shane. It didn't happen for whatever reason. I don't know the backstory, but I knew. I think I knew quite soon after Bathurst that was the way forward. Yep.
Was Team 18 the
I'd actually started talking to Frosty at Bathurst. What are you doing next year? On the market, sort of stuck my head into Charlie, had a discussion, and that sort of it evolved from those conversations at Bathurst, I think, in 18.
It's funny when we look back on how deals happen and where the roots to them are. Generally, it's a casual chat. Hey, what are you doing next year? Or there's no real great science to a lot of it. It just turns into this opportunistic in the same place at the same time. Hey, what you doing? Well, I don't know. Want to drive? Sure. It's funny how all these big ticket things in your career happen in quite a casual way.
For sure. And trust, I think. Trust and particularly with Frosty, the backstory of what we'd done. Frosty was a different person in 2018 that he was in 2007. His family, you're a different stage of your life. And we had a great time when we were driving together, so he was probably able to have a little bit more of an influence in that decision with Charlie, maybe.
Yeah. When we look at your whole, there's so many things I've skipped or that we haven't got to, or that we've been sitting here for a great afternoon here at the kitchen table at your place. It's now dark.
And it's pissing with rain.
It's pelting with rain. We've held your house hostage all afternoon.
Yeah.
So we'll finish it up shortly. But I wanted to ask, we talk about cars and teams and deals and wins and losses and all the bits along the way. But I wanted to delve into something else about, I guess, around things like leadership. And now that you're still connected to the sport, but you got a day job, like the sport's not your day job.
Yep.
All of those things that you've picked up along the way, all of the experiences, the highs, the lows, what to use good leadership? What have you seen along the way that you go, I'll take a bit of that when I go into my next thing? Oh, I like how that guy does that. What are the things you've learned, in how to lead, in how to manage people, in how to get the best out of a situation? Because motor racing's like this great teaching ground.
Yeah, for sure.
Some people do depart it and
Yep.
go outside the bubble. A lot of people stay in the bubble their whole life. But when you go outside the bubble, there's all these things that you probably didn't realise you were doing and picking up along the way that you go,
definitely.
I can now use all this.
Well, there's no question that when and this, we spoke earlier about the fact that, what does motor racing bring to the table in outside of motor racing? And I think the skill that, because of the competitive environment, because of, there are lots of parts within motorsport that are probably not relevant to the real world. And what I mean by that is, so lucky in motorsport that everyone from the truck driver to the young mechanic to the engineer to every part of that team, to the commercial department, whatever it is, they're all really passionate about what they do. They all have an underlying commitment to get it done. They understand that to get to the finish line first, there's got to be commitment and sacrifice all the way to the checkered flag. Doesn't matter what you do. When you step into the outside world, it's not quite like that. There are a lot of other elements and reasons why people get up every day to do what they do in their lives. And you can't, some people, their reasons for going to work is to put food on the table. Some people it's to see themselves rise through the ranks to get to a high level management position and eventually be a CEO. To some people, it's what's required for them to do the passion and the things that they like on the weekends. All different reasons. And I think the key takings that I've had is understanding that we all do it for different reasons. No one does it for the same reasons that I do, but having a bit of empathy and a bit of compassion along the way, but making sure that you provide a clear direction for people as to what the business outcome is to be and what their personal outcome is, because everyone's different in what they see. Some people they don't want to work 1 second of overtime. They're happy, but other people, all they need is a sense to make a difference, whatever that difference is to them. And if you can find it and you can get the most out of people, that's what it's about. Pretty simple to me. I treat everyone with respect, whatever their role is, whatever they do. I like to know people. I've found, and that's no different to how I was in motor racing. A big part of what I ever did and what I enjoyed was going motorbike riding with the guys and girls in the team, spending the Christmas party night out because I enjoy their company. My way to relax before a race was just to be around the team and just soaking in the atmosphere, not being in the truck with listening to music. That wasn't my way of doing things, but I think that pretty well. That's pretty well, pretty simple, I think, but
effective
for me.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah. When have you led well? When have you not led well? I mean, as a driver, you can set the tone for a race team.
Yep.
You don't have to be the owner or the manager, but at all those different experiences you've had, when have you look back on and go, no, I think about when you go work for Nissan, you don't have to be in the workshop, but you want to be in the workshop.
Yeah.
That rubs off. But when you can influence others, when have you done that well? And when in hindsight have you gone, actually I could have, I didn't quite nail that, or I didn't know what I didn't know?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I think, it's easy to be a good leader when things are going good. It's very easy to ride the crest of the wave. It's not as easy when you're in the trough, and stress and pressure and different things are different to different people, and it's how you manage it. You're certainly measured more by, it's simple. In racing terms, you're measured much more by the way that you handle your bad weekends than you are by your good weekends. And it's just, I don't know, bad time. Maybe that period at FPR when, I remember having some really non-characteristic conversations with people in the team at FPR when things weren't going right.
Non-characteristic for you?
For me.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
I'm a very, if you look at my line, it's pretty flat. It doesn't
Emotion-wise.
Yeah. But there were certainly times at that point where I felt that maybe I might have lost a couple of really good people the way that I might have spoken to them, or
out of your frustration,
yeah. So that's you do take little points from that, and you go, that wasn't the way I should have handled that. I should have maybe kept that a bit more private. But then, how else, when I've got a personality the way I have, how do I convey that frustration?
Because it's going to look non-normal any way you do it.
Exactly. It's going to just look like it's a standard Stephen Richards. How do I get rid of that frustration?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it makes sense. I guess when your graph's pretty flat, any little deviation up or down, it's going to be noticeable no matter which way it goes.
You celebrate a good result, but it's not like you're screaming it from the top of your lungs. It's like a personal satisfaction that's reflected through everyone's success, not your individual success.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Makes sense. Mate, we have covered so much ground today. We have done literally a marathon. This will be a multi-parter when we cut it all together.
I hope people
it'll be like a whole series of Richo. But while we had the opportunity, I think while we were enjoying the chat, I've looked at the clock a couple of times.
Yeah, I know.
And it is now absolutely dark, and it is absolutely teeming down on a Melbourne winter's Saturday afternoon. But thank you to you for sitting down for the best part of 4 hours. Thank you to Ange, your wife, who's been trying to wander around with the groceries here and not make any noise. Priya's lurking around here somewhere too as well, and I think she's been banished to her room for about 4 hours as well. So thank you very much to you all. Really loved working with you over the years on so many projects. We did some stuff with the BMW GT program.
And there are things that we haven't, and there's so many.
Oh, I know. We're going to have to come back and have another
one day.
It took us 7 years to do this one. So I'll see you in about 2033, whatever it might be.
And there'll be new pages to the story.
There is always new pages to the story. And we love doing the gym book, by the way, which
thanks so much for...
is a sellout.
Because certainly Jim...
We had to twist his arm, didn't we?
Yep.
You know what? I've been asked by a few people about the background of some of these projects. And before we wrap up, I quickly got to say this because it's quite funny. I had asked him many years ago, hey, you should do another book. There's one book out ever and great. No. And because he's so humble, he doesn't think that anyone cares, which is ridiculous. And then it was your sister, really, Danielle, who really started to get on him a few years back and went, come on, Dad, you should do this. You should do this.
You should do this for the grandkids.
Do it for the grandkids. It was the guilt trip of the grandkids that did the Jim Richards Gentleman Gym book. But we had a dinner, didn't we?
Yep.
At Danielle and her husband Craig's place, and all the family was there, and I came along. And the whole mission was to basically convince Jim that, hey, we should do this book. This will be all good. It'll be done well and all that stuff. But the thing that staggered me, that nearly made me just fall on the floor, that came out of it all, was when someone said about, well, when you do a book, because it said, when are you going to write a book?
Yeah.
It's not literal.
No, that's right.
I think he thought that he was expected to sit at the keyboard and tap out this 80,000, 90,000 word book. But when we said, no. We'll do the writing. Will Dale, who worked with me for many years, he spent the time on the phone and sitting down and going through photos and going through stories. I think once he realised he wasn't expected to be on the keyboard,
it was like
it's the best thing ever. It was the best thing ever. So I'm glad, because had we not quite got him to figure that bit out, we might not have ever got him to say
that's right.
So
that's right.
I'm glad that worked out.
No, he really thought that he was going to have to be, writing notes and handing things over. And anyway,
no, didn't have to do that.
It was perfect.
Thank you, mate. Totally appreciate it. This has been a super episode of V8.
Great.
Actually, it's not an episode. It's episodes. It's like a sub-series.
I just worry people get bored of listening to some of that stuff, but
I can
I'm
confirm for you, Richo, they will not. If you like this podcast, send us an email, get in touch on socials. I will forward them all on to Richo, so he knows that you weren't bored and didn't think it was bad. So there you go. Thank you, mate.
Thanks, mate. Great.
It's been a long one. If you've been with us for all three parts of the Steve Richards chat, I think you will have agreed we got a long way. We covered off a whole pile on the V8 Sleuth Podcast powered by Parramatta Toyota. For 4 hours we chatted. In fact, it was just under 4. It just flew by. And there's even more stuff that we didn't get time to talk about. So one day we'll get back to Richo's kitchen table for another chat down the track. But if you want more Richo, go back through our library, catch the eps we did with his dad, Jim. There's one in 2019 where we focused heavily on the HDT and the HRT years, and a two-parter with all sorts of cool topics from 2021. I think you'll enjoy both of those. We've got plenty more new eps coming your way soon. I'll catch you next time with another edition of the V8 Sleuth Podcast, powered by Parramatta Toyota.